If you're looking for a user-friendly tool to create your own membership or online community, or if you're looking for an alternative to Facebook groups, then you have come to the right place. Because in this tutorial, I'm excited to introduce you to Circle, an all-in-one community platform for creators, brands, and online business owners. Welcome back to Wit and Wire, where we help creators turn their skills and passions into profitable online businesses. I've been a proud Circle user since the very beginning, since the co-founders and I used to work together at Teachable, and today I'm excited to cover these 3 essentials. First, we'll talk about how to create a community and what it looks like for both you and your community members. Second, I'll show you how the setup works, including discussion spaces, event calendars, live streams, and all of the other great features. And finally, I'll show you how to invite new members into your community, including a few bonus tips on how to scale your business with either a paid membership or a paid private student community. First, let's start with a quick tour of the Circle community interface. When you enter a Circle community, first you'll notice the sidebar on the left. The sidebar is divided into individual spaces which represent different topics. And as the admin, you have control over which members have access to which spaces. As an example, I have different signature courses here at Wit and Wire, so I have different space groups that I grant access to based on which programs my students have joined. Then we have the middle section. This is where students can see different posts. And because I'm clicked into the welcome and guide space, right now I'm only seeing posts within this space. If I were to click around, let's say to course discussion, now I'm seeing the posts within this space, or calendar and recordings looks totally different because this is what's called an event space. And we'll talk about building those 2 types of spaces coming up shortly. I also want to talk about the top bar. So here we have the search function, and this is one of the most powerful features within Circle. If you search for a specific word, you'll see different posts or past events that come up related to that topic. So I searched for the word circle, and you can see my community talks about Circle a lot because we are a community of online business owners and course creators. Then you'll also notice the Go Live button, which allows you to go live to your entire community. Or on the top right, you can see different icons, and those depend on whether you are the admin or a member. I am the admin of the Wit and Wire community, so I have 3 additional icons: analytics, member management, and settings. But all members have these last 3 icons. So this is the notifications icon, this is my direct messaging icon, and under my own face in the corner, I can choose to edit my own profile or change the way that I'm notified within Circle. On the top left, you may also notice a members tab, and this is the member directory for the entire community. And then on the bottom, you can also have external links. For example, my community is tied to my own Wit and Wire online courses. So your course dashboard takes people back to their school built using Teachable. Contact Us goes to the contact page on my website. And if I wanted, I could also include links to things like my YouTube channel, my TikTok account, and so on. I can't wait to get into all of these features more in depth. So let's start by creating your own Circle community. First, you'll go to witandwire.com/circle, where you can start your own 14-day free trial. You can click the button right here or get started on the top right to take you to the onboarding flow. When you first get started, you'll give your community a name and a URL, but you can change any of this later, and you can also use your own custom domain if you'd like. I would probably recommend making it a private community if you're planning to make this a paid membership or a paid component of your own online courses, which is what I do. But again, you can change this setting later. You may decide to have part of your community be free while other parts are gated to paid members. The options are truly endless. After you click next and go through the onboarding flow, you'll wind up on the Getting Started screen. This is the first page you'll see as a new Circle user, and you can see this setup checklist that has Circle's recommended tasks before you launch. We're going to cover the essentials by starting off in the basics section. This is where you'll complete your profile and customize the branding of your community to match your business. Let's click continue to complete our profile. So you can add a photo here and then a headline and bio. So I'll add mine as an example. From here, you can add your location and then add your social links. So I'll just add a few, and then you'll click save. You can go back and edit that profile anytime by clicking your face on the top right corner and clicking edit profile. Next up, let's customize your branding. So let's click continue, and this will open up a sidebar where you can change your brand color, logo, and icon. And just so that you know, you can also go into the settings tab anytime, and you can change your brand information. Here in the general settings, which you can see along the left, you can change your community name and URL at any time or set a custom domain. And this is where you can change the branding, logo, icon, and a few other community defaults before you get started. For now, I'm going to head back to the community here, and you may notice the Getting Started tab seems to be invisible, but it's actually just here in the sidebar. So as long as you're still going through the onboarding flow and you don't click the X, you'll be able to get back to this menu at any time. Let's hit the continue button to work through this process. So you can change the brand color. Maybe for today's quick demo, I'll just choose a green shade, and then you could upload a logo or icon, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and keep it as is. Now you can see that if I had selected a logo, it would have changed here at the top, but for now, it's just changed everything to this green color that I've selected, including the sidebar selector, the buttons, and the links. The last piece of the basic setup is to decide if your community is public or private. You also may choose to do a hybrid approach, but a public community generally means that anybody can sign up for the community, while private means that it's only visible to members and they have to log in. For Wit and Wire, my community is part of my online courses, so the only people who have access are students in my courses. So I have a private community, so I'm just going to mark this as complete and do a private community. Now that we've customized the basics, it's time to move on to spaces, which are very literally the building blocks of your Circle community. I'm going to set up a couple of demo spaces to show you how they work. Along the left, you can see we have one space group already created. So I'm actually going to click this menu to rename it. So we're going to click Edit Space Group, and I'm going to call this the Welcome section. And then I'm going to click Save to add one more space group. This is a little bit subtle, but you can hover. So instead of clicking Create a Space, just below it, you see Create Space Group. I'm going to call this second space group Course Creator Mastermind. So this represents a group that you can only access if you are a student in this program. If you were creating a paid membership that had more of a topic-centric approach, maybe you could create different groups that represented different topics or different purposes. I'll show you a couple of examples coming up. For now, you'll notice that you can decide who sees this. So you can decide I want to hide it from people who aren't members. You may decide you want to automatically add new members to all of the spaces within this group. You have a ton of ways that you can customize your settings, and you can change these at any time. For now, I'll click Create, and here you can see we now have two space groups with no spaces inside. I'm going to add a space in the Welcome group by clicking Create a Space or the plus icon. Here, you'll notice the sidebar menu pops up where we'll make a few key decisions. First, let's name the space. So I'm going to call this Welcome and Orientation, and this is where I might include instructions for brand new members. And you can also give this space an icon, and I personally like to do the wave icon for the Welcome section. Then I'm going to go ahead and check this box. I want anybody in the Welcome group to be included in this space. This is the biggest decision you'll make because the type of space you create cannot be changed later. Everything else can. So your decision is, am I creating a post space or an event space? Event spaces have things like add to calendar, they have dates, they have upcoming events and past events. You can do live streams. I'm going to talk about those in a second. While a post space is the more traditional type that you might think about with discussions and comment sections. So we're going to start off with a post type. Then with access, open, private, and secret, it's completely up to you. I typically make my spaces secret so that only people in that space know that it exists. But you could also make it private if you wanted other people to be able to see it, but it would be gated. They would know that they couldn't join unless they paid or otherwise gained access. Lastly, you get to decide how new members get notifications. You can decide that they should get emails, in-app notifications, or both. And later on, each of your members will be able to decide how they want to be notified. So this is just the starter settings, but your members can change this later. I'm going to click Create Space, and this will add it to the sidebar. And now you can see we have a blank space for your members to get started. Even though we just added the new space, there are actually more settings we didn't see yet, so I recommend starting with this gear icon and clicking Edit Space. Before we saw the Details tab, but now we see Customize and Options. Under Customize, you can decide if you want a feed, list, or card layout. And this is one of the most powerful features of Circle because these different options create a very different user experience. First, let's see the feed layout. This is the traditional community forum setup, and it's great for discussion spaces, feedback spaces, introductions, and anywhere that you want people to engage in discussion. Next, here's an example of a list view. This one is also unique because you may notice that before you could see people's faces next to their posts, but here they've actually hidden that information to create more of an information space called events. And these are Circle's help articles on how you can create events in your community. So there's no person, there's no date and time published. You cannot comment on these or like them. And I'm going to show you how you can adapt all of those settings. But here you can see what a list setup looks like. And you can also see the say hello space in Circle's member community is also a list setup, but in this case, it brings back the faces and the replies. So I'm going to show you how to customize these in a second. The third layout is called card view. And here you can see an image represents each one of the posts. And to click in, I'll show you an example where you can see this is a video hosted natively within Circle, and you can see the details from this. And again, you may choose to enable likes or comments or turn them off. But between those three views, back to our setup, you can see feed, list, and card. You can actually toggle back and forth. So this is a decision that can change in the future. Next, you can decide if you want to see the sidebar. So in the Wit and Wire community, in the welcome space, I do have a few pinned posts just to keep them at easy access. But then in the discussion space, I have turned it off just to make the focus on all of the posts. I didn't feel that it added to the student experience to have a sidebar. So we're gonna turn it off. Next, you can decide which tabs you want to see. So by default, you can see a posts tab and a members tab. But for many spaces, I like to turn off the members tab because they can always go to the member directory at the top. If you're only showing posts, if there's only one tab visible, I like to turn this off because I'm always trying to make the experience as streamlined as possible. Scrolling down, you only have to worry about the lock screen if you're building a private space because you want something that tells people, hey, this is locked, and here's maybe how you could sign up to unlock it. But since we are building, I believe, a secret space, we don't need this currently. I'm going to click Apply Changes, and then you can see in the background there's no longer those two tabs at the top. The last tab is the Options tab, and this is where you can add other moderators, grant specific people permission, like can they add others, can they make posts, do they have titles? These are all up to you to toggle on or off. And I will say, in this space, because this is the welcome space, I'm actually not going to allow other members to create posts or to add other people because these are my instructions. Here's the actual example from before. You can see I have added instructions about my community and how to earn badges and to download the Circle app on their phones. So I don't want other members to be able to post here. Only I can post here. But then in the course discussion space, of course, I want anybody to be able to post in this section. So the new post button will be visible to everyone. Labels are at the top of the pinned post section. Do you want it to have a different title? And then you can change the sort order if you wanted a different default view, like which post do you want people to see at the top. But for the most part, I'm going to click Apply Changes, close out of this, and now we have finished the space setup. The most obvious thing that we're now missing are posts. So I'm going to show you how to add a new post, and your members can add posts as well if you haven't toggled that on-off switch. Here's the post layout. You can see they can go ahead and add a title like, hey everyone, and then within the body of the post, you can include any information you'd like, including blocks from the bottom. So here you can see there are basic formatting blocks, but you can also mention people, add emojis, add files or images, or you can embed things. Although you can see the option to embed things like YouTube videos or Vimeo videos, you can also host videos directly within Circle. As we saw in the video library, here's an example of a video where they just dragged this MP4 file in and they host the file directly within Circle. So it's really nice that you don't need an external tool to host those videos. Back in our example, maybe here would be the instructions for our community, point 1, point 2, you get the picture. And then maybe I would end with a GIF because I'm so excited to have people here. So we'll end with a nice welcome from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Before I click post, I just wanted to share there are additional settings that I'm going to cover shortly, but I'm actually going to go back and click post because you can come back in here and edit this at any time. But I thought this would be a helpful way to get started. So by default, you can see the post has my name, my photo, and my subtitle at the top. It also has just now, which represents the date and time it was posted. This is called meta information. And in a second, I'm going to show you how to hide that if you want. You can also choose whether or not people can like or comment on this post. And to do that, we're going to open the settings back up. So this is the meta information. If you toggle this on, and let me just toggle these two on as well, you may notice now it has removed the meta information at the top and disabled their ability to comment or like this post. I actually do this in every single space. Let me show you an example. Back in course discussion, you can see one post at the top that's been pinned. It doesn't have my face. It doesn't have comments or likes. I use this to add a little bit of instructions to the top. So here's a brief description at the top of the discussion space. And here are instructions that show how students can get feedback when they are working through their curriculum. You may also wonder, how does this always stay at the top? And you can do this by a feature called pinning. So you can see the small pin icon here. Heading back into our post, if I head back into edit and back into the settings, you may decide to pin the post to the top or to the sidebar, although we've disabled that in this particular space. And then the last two toggles are to disable truncation. This is nice because if you have a longer instructional post, you may not want it to truncate. So truncation is where you see the see more button. If you didn't want it to have that option, if you wanted it to always be shown, then you could turn this toggle on to disable the truncation. The last thing is hiding it from featured areas. I do this for instructional posts only because you don't want them to be in the home tab. This is the home tab where your members can see every post from every space they're in, but I intentionally hide the instructional ones from the home tab just because I don't think that it's really what students expect to see here. So back over here, maybe we will hide this one. And if you had any custom HTML, this is a little bit advanced. You can probably skip this for now. You can change the slug if it's useful for you or the author. But for the most part, I'm going to go ahead and click done, click save. And now if I click on the space, you can see this has been pinned to the top. And if other people were to come in and add their own posts, they would appear below. So let's do, here's a second post, and we won't change any of those settings. So now you can see the difference. Back in the space, we've got our pinned post at the top, and we've got the start of our feed below. Now, if I were building out my new community, I would add a few more spaces under welcome. I would probably add a space called introductions, where people could say hello and introduce themselves to other members. And then I would build out additional spaces under the actual course, the Course Creator Mastermind, that are gated just towards my students. But for the sake of our demo, up next, I'm going to show you how to add an event space and run live streams. Here you can see in the same space we created an event before. This time I'm going to call this calendar and recordings. I'm going to change the icon. I like the calendar. And then we're going to do events. So here you can see this is a different type altogether. And as I mentioned before, this is the only setting you cannot change after a space is created. It's either a post space forever or an event space forever. And as you'll see in a second, they function very differently, so that's why you can't change back and forth. I am going to make this a secret group and add members from this space automatically, and I'm actually going to keep these turned off. The way that I create my event spaces, I typically add a whole batch at once. I'll add a whole month's worth of events, so I actually don't want to email people when I post all of those because I think that could be a bit annoying, but it's completely up to you. I also don't want to auto RSVP people. I want them to decide which events they want to attend. Let's click create. And this will add our new space along the left. And now you can start to see the two space groups. Each one has one space underneath. And we have the settings icon here to edit the space. And before we only had the details tab, but now we're going to go to customize and options. Under customize, you can see right now we have upcoming, past, and members. I'm going to turn off the members tab and make the default the upcoming tab. Now, if you didn't want people to see past events, maybe you would deselect that item as well. But for me, these two tabs make perfect sense. As we talked about before, because this is a secret space, the only people who can see it are people enrolled in this course. I'm not going to customize the lock screen, but we will go over to options. Oh, and I forgot to apply the changes at the bottom. So you got to apply the changes on each tab. And then under options, again, if you want other moderators, you can add other people. I'm going to disable the option for members to add other people, and I don't really need to do much with the SEO settings because this is a private community, nor do I need to change any of the sort option. So I'll click apply, and now we are set and ready to add our first event. I'm going to click new event, and I'm going to call this group coaching. So for our example, maybe this is the weekly live group coaching that my course creators can join me for, which happens every week. So I am going to set this to be a 1-hour event. And I'm going to set it to repeat every Tuesday, let's say. And maybe for now, I'll have this event end after 4 occurrences because maybe I'm just adding this 1 month for now. Scrolling down to the location, this is where it gets interesting. You could use your own URL. For example, if you already use Zoom a lot, that could make perfect sense for you to include a Zoom URL as the location. Infrequently, you may be doing an in-person event depending on the nature of your membership or community. Or if you are on the Pro plan, you can do a Circle live stream. And this means that you can stream directly inside of your Circle community with no external tool like Zoom needed. I also strongly recommend keeping the recording toggle checked. I typically post recordings of my group coaching calls or my student workshops within a business day. So I would keep this checked, and then we will move into the next step. Access is about two things: how it looks and who can see it. Up first, you'll decide what the view should look like. Gallery view means everyone's face is the same size in a grid layout, while speaker view emphasizes one person larger than the rest. And access means who can see this. So if it's open, everyone in your community can see the stream. But if it's private, then only the people who see this event and RSVP can access the event. To me, it makes sense if you're doing a private event to hide the location from non-attendees, but it's up to you how you want to grant access within your community based on the type of event that you're running. Next up, let's do notifications. I typically keep these on the default settings. I send people an email notification and an in-app notification when they sign up and RSVP, and then these reminders go out 1 hour before the event. If you wanted, you could customize a thank you message. This is what people will see in their confirmation email. But to be perfectly honest, I'm fine with the template text that Circle has written, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to click Create Draft. Now, what's nice about Circle events is that now we have that third tab in the background, Drafts, so this won't go published to my community until I click the Publish button. I could also click Save Draft. We'll just accept this for now. You can see this appears in the Drafts tab, but this entire tab is only visible to you. Your members cannot see this tab, nor can they see any of these events until you say so. I'm going to head back into Edit This Event to show you a few more features. On the Overview tab, you can see the shareable link here. You can copy this to your clipboard, and maybe you would want to send out an email to your members if you were promoting this event directly, just to share one example. Then under Details, before you created a title for the event, but now you have two additional options. You can add a longer description to the event, and if you wanted, you could create a cover image for this event. Let me show you an example of what this could look like. Here in my own Wit and Wire student community, let me click into a group coaching call. It's coming up in 2 days, and you can see I've added just a short paragraph and a link to submit questions in advance. But you can also see along the right that students have the opportunity to add this event to their calendar and see the Zoom URL. I'm currently testing out the live stream feature as well, so that's why I'm using Zoom instead of live streams within Circle. But moving forward, I will be using the native live streaming tool instead, which I'm very excited about. Here's another event space. This is from the Circle member community. And you can see if you click on the weekly Q&A, this is what the image could look like at the top if you wanted to add a little bit more pizzazz to your events. So to recap, this is where you could include that cover image, and this is where you could add a short description. Then under date and time, you can change any of these settings at any time. You can change the stream view. You can change the default notifications. You also have advanced options if you wanted to hide the meta information or disable comments or likes, completely up to you. And then when you're ready, you'll go ahead and click Publish. Because this is a recurring event, it's my decision to publish this event only, this event and following, or all. So I'm going to do all, and now this will appear in the upcoming tab. At this point, you can see all of the upcoming recurring events, and if you want, you can go in here and edit an event to either update the series or just to edit an individual event. Before I show you the live streaming tools, I just want to talk about the difference between live streaming and using Circle and Zoom together. So this event is hosted natively in Circle. When your members click join this stream, they will be taken into the event live within this browser window. But going back to the calendar, this is the event that we built where we offered a Zoom URL as the location. So in this case, the event is actually taking place on Zoom. It's just that we have given our members the option to add this event to their calendar. To recap, when you use the live stream event, students can join it natively within Circle, but if you use Zoom, they are going to a separate Zoom event. You can record that Zoom event, and what I do in my community is upload it. So this is a past event, and I've just uploaded that video natively into Circle. They host the video for me. So I still think that Zoom is a great option, but definitely the live stream feature has a lot of potential to make a really seamless experience for your students and to eliminate the need for Zoom. Back over here, let's click join the stream to see what it looks like. First, you'll be prompted to enter the backstage area, And here I'm going to keep my camera turned off, but you can see similar buttons along the bottom to the Zoom interface if that's something you're familiar with. You have the option to turn your mic on or off, your camera on or off, and you have the option to share your screen. I'm going to click go live and I'm going to confirm that we are ready to go. This will notify your members and they will have the option to join you as well. And you can see how many people are here along the right, and you can open up a chat window to engage with your participants. You also can see the view toggle here if you want to go to the gallery view. There's only one of me, but it could be a small grid, or back to speaker view, and it would change if you shared your screen. Once the recording is over, you'll see it is listed as recording on the top. You can click end stream and confirm that we are finished. I am going to head back to the community, although all of your members will have the opportunity to submit feedback. You can see on the live stream tab, here is our recent event, and when it is finished processing, the recording will be posted here. It's up to you to decide if and how you share that with your community. Personally, what I like to do, going back over here, I like to upload it into the initial post. So as we saw over here, I include the video in the past tab. So in my own community, for any of my members, if they scroll through past events, they can always click here, see what happened in the video, and then follow along with any resources, which I include afterwards. Let's head back into our demo community to talk about the next section, which is links. We've added a space for discussion, a space for events, and now we're going to add a few external links. Here in the plus icon, these are links that are outside of your Circle community. So for example, maybe I would add a link to my YouTube channel, witandwire.com/YouTube. And if you are enjoying this video, this is probably a good opportunity for me to ask you to like this video and subscribe if you're interested in more online business tips and tutorials. I'll click add link and you'll notice it adds it here at the bottom. So you could add your YouTube channel. Maybe I would also add another link to my TikTok account. And then maybe we'll add one more link to contact us or get in touch. I always think it's nice to let people know how they can reach you and to be very proactive about that. So we'll add this final link, and you can actually rearrange these just by clicking on the link, dragging it around and changing the order like this. And when I refresh the page, it'll refresh along the left. I'm going to add one more link because my Circle community is a hub for all of my Wit and Wire students in signature programs. So I'm going to add a link where they can easily access their courses, which I've built using Teachable. So I'm going to call this course dashboard and then link to my course hub. And as you can see, when I click on this, it'll open up a new tab where they can log in and access all of their courses hosted on Teachable. Speaking of Teachable, let's talk about how Circle integrates with other tools. One of the most popular options is to use what's called single sign-on to allow your Circle members to log into their community using the same details they already use to access their membership or course platform. So under settings, you can click single sign-on on the left, and down here you can see the options, including Teachable, where you can have that login. So the students' Teachable login, they can use that same information to log into their Circle community, the way that you might use something like Gmail to log into other apps or tools. If you're interested in learning more about Teachable, Wit and Wire community members can get a free account at witandwire.com/teachable. Or you can download my complete guide of all of my favorite course creation tools at witandwire.com/course toolkit. You can also use Zapier to integrate Circle with quite a few other popular online business tools. And if you aren't familiar, Zapier is a tool that connects business tools to each other. So if an action takes place in one tool, you can create an action in a second tool. Speaking of logins, let's talk about your members. Here is the section where you can invite different members, either in a bulk import or with invitation links. If you do a bulk import, you could upload a CSV file and upload a group at once. You can also use tools like Zapier to automatically enroll members in your community based on purchases that they've made elsewhere, or you can use invitation links. Invitation links are great because they give you a tool where you can send this link out just to the people who you want to join, and then they can actually sign up on their own. But what's great about the links is that you can decide which spaces, groups, or tags you want them to be added to by default. So if you had two different courses, let's say, you could create two different links and include those in your welcome emails so that those students get routed to the right pieces of your community. This also brings up the fun question, what are member tags? So here under tags, you can create different tags, sometimes called badges, for your community. And I think this is a really fun way to gamify your experience and reward members either for engagement or for accomplishment. To share an example, here's what an icon-only member tag looks like. If you hover over Lisa's tags, you can see that she recently passed 1,000 downloads all time for her new podcast, which is very exciting. And it's up to you if you include the word next to it, but I've just chosen to use the icons. Here is where you can decide if you want icon with tooltip or label. I've gone with icon with tooltip, and you can create as many member tags as you'd like. Now, strategically, going back to the members tab, getting members is a lot more than just the technical question of how do they join. And it's up to you if you're creating a paid membership, if your members are actually students in your community and this is almost a component of their course experience, the way that I have at Wit and Wire, or if you have a hybrid community of both free and paid members. So it's completely up to you. There's no one right or wrong answer, but the strategy behind how you set up your community will really affect the way that you invite members in, both strategically and literally, using different tech and different tools. Heading back over to the Circle member community, I also wanted to show you that your community can have direct messaging. Previously, we talked about spaces where you can invite groups of people, but you can start direct message conversations with individuals or with small groups to really create a more personalized connection between you and your members, or even member to member, which I think is a huge part of the value of an online community, those connections with other people who are in the same boat as you are. In terms of pricing, after your 14-day trial, you'll have the option between the basic or the professional plan, and the biggest difference for most users is going to be the decision about if you want live stream and video. For most of you, I would recommend starting off on the basic plan, unless, again, you know this is a feature you definitely want to use, but you can scroll down a little bit further. This is witandwire.com/circle if you want to get a full comparison between the options. But for most of us, starting off with these caps, like 1,000 members, 1 admin, and 10 spaces, should be more than enough to get started. But then as you scale, or if you decide you want to do the live streaming natively within Circle, you may decide to upgrade to Pro. No matter which plan you use, it's also worth noting that Circle has free iOS and Android apps, so your members can access your Circle community on the go, which can really increase engagement by making it more accessible. At this point, you may also be wondering, what are the competitors to Circle, and why would I recommend Circle over the alternatives? One popular option is called Mighty Networks. They are a robust tool, and you can do a lot. You can create a forum, you can create an event calendar, you can host your courses. It can do quite a bit. But based on my own personal experience and preferences, to me, Mighty Networks communities feel a little bit chaotic, while Circle communities feel much friendlier and easier to navigate. And I also think that the search functionality in Circle is much more user-friendly, and the space organization suits the way that I think. So for pricing reasons, they are pretty comparable. Mighty Networks is $99 a month or $33 to get started, so there's not really a huge price difference. So again, for the best user experience, clean interface, and just ability to connect, my personal preference is Circle, but you can also check out Mighty Networks in the description. Then there is MemberPress and the suite of WordPress plugins. If you're familiar with WordPress or have a WordPress site, you know that you can add plugins to add a lot of functionality to your site. And there are countless options to build either a forum or a membership or a course platform or all of the above built together. MemberPress is certainly a popular option, although again, I really enjoy using Circle and find it easier to use than a lot of WordPress plugins, but this is definitely worth exploring for the right creator, and you'll find a link in the description. Then if you're just looking for something a little more straightforward, you can try Slack, very popular for digital workplaces. It's a great place to create forums and community. I will say that Circle has a lot more functionality. You can have the forum, list, or card view. You can have emails send automatically, even a weekly newsletter. There's so many features we didn't even have time to unpack. You can go live natively within Circle. So I think that although this is a great option to get started, at some point, if you build within Slack, you may find yourself wanting to graduate to something like Circle, which is more robust and capable. We also have tools like Geneva, which are very similar to Slack. They have different spaces and chat rooms, forum rooms, video rooms. It feels kind of similar to Circle, and this is a free alternative. Again, maybe not quite as robust as Circle, but it could be an option worth exploring. Lastly, I do want to share that if we look back at our Circle plans, right now, they're testing a lot of new features and rolling things out constantly. So for example, if you are a course creator, they're working on course creation features, which are rolling out in the fall of 2022, and a lot of other things that I'm really excited about. We couldn't possibly cover everything in one video, but hopefully this has given you an overview of what Circle is capable of and if it could be the right fit for you to scale your business. To offer a quick bonus tip, the best way to start a new community or membership is to use an MVP mentality. MVP is short for minimum viable product. It's used a lot in the tech world to talk about the fact that when apps ship for the first time, when they go out to users, they create the minimum amount of features that are still useful for buyers. So in your case, imagine what are the elements of community that are the essentials that you can roll out to your first group, and just know that you can always develop and add on more over time. Then as a second tip, it is a myth that you need a huge audience or a ton of members to get started. Whether you're doing a private student community that goes alongside your courses, or if you're doing a paid subscription where the product is the membership itself, often you can start off really small with even 10 people to create a meaningful experience. So ask yourself who you can serve, what outcomes they're trying to reach, and what minimum viable amount of features you need to create in order to get them there. If you're interested to learn more about online course creation or some of my favorite online business tools, you can download my free online course creation toolkit at witandwire.com/toolkit. And if you're curious to learn more online business tips and strategies, here's another video that I think you'll really enjoy.